Well, I think it's safe to say that we didn't see that coming. Yes, it's a sad weekend for the Green Bay Packers. We got a lot to unpack after that loss to the Broncos. We'll discuss that and a whole lot of feedback from the diehard fans who refuse to give up. All this and more coming up next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
Podcasting since 2005. I am Wayne Henderson, and I got to tell you, the highs and lows from Sunday's game actually caused my rose-colored glasses to fly off my head and shatter into pieces.
It's about dang time. Hey there, PFP listeners. I'm Scott Clark from the Gaming Outsider Podcast. I don't even know what to say after this week. I'm beyond frustrated, as I'm sure most of you are, and I'm getting really depressed watching what's been happening this season. We've got a lot of ground to cover. On this 282nd episode of the Packers Fan Podcast, we'll go over what we liked and what we didn't from our shocking loss to the Broncos. As always, we're going to have some awesome listener feedback from you guys as well.
And then Scott and I are going to preview next Sunday's Vikings at Packers game at Lambeau Field because we are turning over a new leaf and looking towards the future. Of course, this is all going to include, wow, Mr. Positivity in the background there. We're going to include Scott's keys to a Packers victory. I sure hope he has some keys to a victory. But until then, we got to address the elephant in the room. How about the highlights from the Packers' loss in Denver? Were there any?
Well, they're few and far between, but let's go over the Packers' leaders in the Broncos game. Jordan Love was 21 for 31 for 180 yards. He did have 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. A.J. Dillon was our leading rusher with 15 carries and 61 yards. And A.J. Dillon was also our top receiver with 2 receptions for 34 yards. Yes, 2 receptions and 34 yards was our highest wide receiver of the game, even though he's a receiver, not a wide receiver. Trying to keep things positive, Isaiah McDuffie was the top defender. He had 10 total tackles, 7 of them being solo tackles. So his name was very much at the top of the ranks there.
We'll take it. And although Aaron Jones was back this week, Scott, kind of in limited fashion, it was definitely A.J. Dillon that had some absolutely clutch runs in the second half. Not just the numbers, but the fact that it looked awesome. It was a lot of fun. And all I can say is please run A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones even more. And speaking of running, Jordan Love had a couple of nice runs himself.
He did, but he still needs to learn how to slide, man. He is not a running back. He slid, I think, 1 time, but like, dude, you got to protect yourself. Those guys are a lot bigger than you are. But again, why are we passing so much? I just don't get why we're passing so much. It shouldn't take till the second half to do damage against the worst running defense in the league. Literally the worst running defense in the league. And we had 2 breakaway running plays that that almost put us into the opportunity to score, and then they couldn't convert on a passing play on 4th down and 10, or I don't know, whatever it was, but yeah, it's kind of frustrating. I know this is highlights. I need to stop being so negative. So yes. I'm going to go to another positive, Wayne. Guess what? We had no fumbles.
All right.
I'm just looking for a silver lining here at this point. There were no fumbles by the Green Bay Packers this game.
That is a silver lining, that's for sure. Now, especially in the second half, we did a pretty decent job of moving the ball, kind of up to a point. And of course, the infamous tie goes to the offense, touchdown to Dobbs. That was wild. And that, you got to say, insane touchdown that bounced, I think, off of Dobbs and into Reed's hands. It's almost like we just drew it up that way, and it was wild, just wild. But I will take those.
It was totally crazy. Reed got really lucky on that one. The pass was intended for Dobbs, bounced off him and went right into the hands of Reed. Talk about being at the right place at the right time. I went through a flurry of different emotions on that play because, number one, I was angry because we're passing. And then number 2, I had a little butt clench moment when it bounced off of Dobbs. And then I was just immediately elated that Reed wound up with it in the end zone, because that was clearly not how that play was designed. Kind of nuts there. So, but yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about that touchdown because not the announcers, but you know how they have one of the, the former refs that is, in the booth and talking and saying that, right, that touchdown pass should have gone to the defender, because in his words, They both had possession of the ball, but the defender's feet landed inbounds before the offensive receiver did. And in his mind, it should have been an interception. I was not familiar with this rule because the last time I had something like that, we called it a Fail Mary back in Seattle. If you remember that.
If I remember, we all remember the Fail Mary. What a disaster.
So I actually went and looked at the rule. And would you like to hear the rule, Wayne?
Yes, I'd love to hear the rule.
All right. Well, here's the rule. It says, quote, if a pass is caught simultaneously by two eligible opponents and both players retain it, the ball belongs to the passers. It is not a simultaneous catch if any player gains control first and an opponent subsequently gains joint control. If the ball is muffed after simultaneous touching by two such players, all the players of the passing team become eligible to catch the loose ball. So the second half of that is irrelevant, but it sounds like the tie goes to the offense. That's what the rule says. So I don't know where this 2 feet in bounds thing came from. I've never heard that rule before. I know it's not the first time I've seen two players come down with a ball at the same time, because they really did catch that ball at the same time. It was like all four hands were on it at the same time, and then the defender landed, and then Dobbs landed. To me, that is a Green Bay touchdown.
Right.
According to what I'm reading here in the rules, so I don't know what that dude was talking about, and I was kind of mad because I believed him. I was like, oh, he's an expert. He must know. So maybe we got away with one there. Well, I mean, he's an expert. He's supposed to be an expert.
He's a retired expert, maybe retired for a reason. I don't know. I mean, the
he's
rule.
A Broncos fan, one of the two.
There's that. But much like on Seinfeld, where the card says moops, this is what the rule says. And yeah, when he was talking about, well, I don't know, the Broncos' feet came down first, I'm thinking to myself, or no, I actually yelled it out loud. That's the stupidest thing I've ever flippin' heard. His feet came. Oh, because gravity didn't favor the Packers receiver. He thinks the ball should go to the. So stupid.
Yeah, I've legitimately never heard anything like that before. But hey, you learn something every day, I guess. And there you go. Got to go talk about some lowlights as well. Penalties. I know we keep saying the team is young, but how long can we use that excuse? I mean,
I'm not using that excuse.
I know, but that's the only thing I can say about it. I don't know what else you say about a team that just cannot get it together with penalties. Just some stupid penalties, and some questionable calls as well. But I don't know. That's not what lost us this game. Clearly, that's not what lost us this game. But
the calls, because I think the penalties definitely helped us lose the game.
But I mean, if they deserve the penalties, then they deserve the penalties. You know what I mean? But
absolutely. I wish we did not deserve those penalties.
Absolutely.
And in addition to penalties, how about injuries? Injuries everywhere. Injuries. Scott, it's just not fair. I didn't mean to make that rhyme, but maybe it did. But how can we get so many? We're going to be down to just who knows who. Devontae Wyatt got banged up. He's got something going on with his knee. Darnell Savage, I think it was maybe a calf injury. Our center of all people, Myers, left with an injury as well. Might be a knee also. And at the very end, Christian Watson injured again, this time with a knee, and his might be the most serious one of the new bunch.
And he's supposed to be our star receiver this year.
Yes.
Maybe, I don't know. Here's an idea. Maybe we should start running the ball. I know it's a novel concept, but since we're running out of receivers, maybe start running. I don't know.
2 thumbs up.
Stokes is also hurt with a hamstring injury, so it's just incredibly sad anymore. I was watching the game with my in-laws, and my father-in-law was saying you can't win if you're getting 3 to 4 or 5 injuries in a single game each week. You're just not going to stay healthy. You can't get more profound of a statement than that. You're not going to win games if you're injured, and that's part of what happened this week. So, also, so frustrated. Why does Love keep throwing into double coverage? I mean, I understand that there may not be double covered at the time that he throws the ball,
right?
But it's so annoying watching him throw to a covered receiver, even if it is single covered, when others are much more open. I don't know. His long ball just isn't working. I know you trained under Aaron Rodgers, and I know that your passes look really great, but it's not working. We are, in my mind, we are officially a running team. We are just not a passing team anymore. I like Jordan Love. I think he's a decent fundamental quarterback, but he is trying too hard to do clutch things too often, and it's getting frustrating. And I will say, as in terms of a feather in his cap, I like that he's not letting himself get emotional on the field or even on the sidelines. He just kind of sits on the sidelines and just kind of looks around. I would rather that than him like getting angry at his team or causing any issues with camaraderie between the team. But I don't know, own some of it or talk to your teammates instead of just sitting around. Yeah, we're a running team. Hand the ball off, dude. That's what we got to do.
And in answer to your question, I have no idea why Love keeps throwing into double coverage. I've got a question for you as well. Does it seem like we're still coming out flat after our bye weeks? This should be getting us restored, re-energized, refocused. And it seems like that we've been flat after a bye week, even back to the McCarthy days. What is the deal?
I don't know, man. I mean, you hear me preach about overconfidence all the time. Are they resting on their laurels? Were they coming into this game saying, "Oh, they're the worst defense in the league"? I don't know what it is, but you're right. It's like the game after the bye. I want to look at the stats. I know somebody, maybe it's one of the CCRs. Caleb, is it Caleb that does all the like looking up of stats and all that? Like have him look back at every game that came after a bye week and just see when's the last time we won a game after a bye week? Because it seems like it's been a really, really long time. So I don't know what the deal is, but it seems like that's just our MO now. We just don't win after the break. I don't have an answer. The last thing I'll say, and I'm being overly negative for a reason, because I'm not happy. I am not happy with what's going on. But there just seems to be no zip. They're waiting until the third quarter to really get things into gear. I don't know what conversations are happening at halftime, but you can't win games by just putting 110% in the third and fourth quarter. I'm beginning to think they went into this game overconfident, and in my mind, they deserved the loss. Quite frankly, they're lucky it wasn't a bigger loss. I remember when it was 6 or 9-0 at the half, and I was like, this should be a much higher deficit at this point. But time of possession and how many yards the Broncos had over us, it was embarrassing. We're lucky we kept it in as close as we did, in my opinion.
And I've heard, there's some spouses that might reset the clocks in their house and move them ahead like 10 minutes or so to try to get their other spouse to be on time for something. They just kind of trick them with the time. Is there a way we can maybe trick the Packers and just tell them that right before kickoff, no, this is actually the second half and we're down and you really need to start strong here in the second half?
Yeah, I agree. It reminds me of like, in the late 90s and early 2000s, I always felt like the Packers were a third quarter comeback team. I don't want to be that. I want to come out the gate swinging and protect a lead instead of trying to chase one. It's maddening, beyond maddening. Yes. I just can't even express how frustrated I am with this team. I mean, on what I said this last week, but I know that this is kind of what we expected. I think I predicted 12 wins this year, and you thought I was crazy for saying 12 wins out of 17 or whatever. Is it 17 or 16?
17.
Can never 17. Dude, we're gonna be lucky to get over 500 by the end of this season. That would be incredibly lucky to be over 500. Well, it's we got such a long road ahead of us, and it's really starting to feel like we need to start looking at just rebuilding for next season instead of trying to force the wins and maybe get more injuries in the rest of the season. But that's what's the opposite of rose-colored glasses?
Blinders,
orange
on?
and brown tinted glasses. I don't know. I'm fired up, man. I'm real fired up.
And the listeners do have a lot to share with us.
Okay, well, let's get into it because we have a lot of comments. Hopefully they're a little more positive than I am. But if you would like to be a part of our upcoming podcast episodes by either recording your voice on your phone or your computer and emailing them to feedback@packersfanpodcast.com. We encourage you to do so, or you can also call in at the PFP voicemail, which is +1 920 3PACK-GO. Deadline for your calls is Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern if you'd like to hear it on the show. And we've got our first one from Jared in Colorado.
Hey, Wayne and Scott. Jared in Colorado. Okay, hold on. Jared in Colorado. Sorry, my voice is kind of shot from the game. As you probably saw from my post, I was able to make it to the game in person, couple of seats, despite the outcome of the game. It was a lot of fun. I got to go to the game with a couple of fraternity brothers from college. It's kind of how things kind of shook out last minute. I'll spare you the details. The point is through a really weird series of connections as to how I was able to make the game in person, which was a lot of fun. Even though they lost, I still had a blast because there was some guys I got to see that I had not seen for a really long time. And so, yeah, if anything, it was a really fun, just kind of reunion of sorts of like guys I went to college with and was in the fraternity with. So overall, I don't have a ton of game feedback. I mean, it was, part of it was definitely tough to watch. I will admit that. I think the game was pretty reminiscent of a lot of the low lights that you and Scott, Wayne, you guys have highlighted throughout the season. I feel like, unfortunately, we're just on display some more during this game. I guess it's bad when, in my case, one of the cops who were there, at the stadium, was kind of giving me crap for how they were doing. Tough year. They're rebuilding, and I think it's reminiscent to that. So, but at the end of the day, though, it's always green and gold till I'm dead and cold. I'll always love the Pack. I'll go ahead and post some photos to the community page. At the end of the game, as we were leaving, I actually got to meet Alvin Jones, which is Aaron Jones's brother, as well as their mom, which was really freaking cool. So I'll go ahead and post photos that took selfies with both Aaron Jones's mom and his brother. Really neat. Loved it. Was able to snap some photos of Aaron Jones, but unfortunately didn't actually get to take any pictures with him. Was also within a handshake distance from him or from myself and Russell Wilson. I think what I was saying was I had a lot of fun at the end of the game walking back to the car. Got to meet Alvin Jones, Aaron Jones' Aaron Jones' brother, who, talking with him, he played for the Ravens for one season. But I met their mom as well, which a quick Google search revealed to me that her name is Burgess. So yeah, she was really cool. She made a comment of it's like I'm nothing, blah blah. She pointed at my jersey. I was wearing an Aaron Jones jersey. She's like, oh, you're the one. She's like, he's the one who's really all about it. And I kind of was like, hey, you're not giving yourself enough credit. Aaron Jones is a gem of not only of a player but as a person, and you played a big part in that. And she was obviously really thankful for that. So, anyways, I'll end it there. It was just as crappy as it was to see the team lose. For me, it was a lot of fun just to watch the Pack play in person, get to reconnect with some old college buddies, and get to meet some members of the Aaron Jones' family, which is kind of cool, and be within just a handshake distance away from Russell Wilson. So pretty wild night, one I will never forget for sure. So that's all I have. Green and gold till dead and cold. Thanks for the podcast, guys. Talk to you soon. It's Jared from Colorado, and I'm going to go ahead and recoup my voice. So talk to you soon. Bye.
Well, thank you very much, Jared. I appreciate the voicemail. Did we get a second one from him as well?
We did, but let's touch on this one first, because the other one was after he got his voice back and had a few more things to bring out.
Okay. Well, yeah, I thought it was really cool that he got to meet Alvin Jones and Aaron Jones and their mom. Good thing you're wearing a jersey.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? That you lucked out there. But I'm with you. Yes, this is a tough game to watch. Gotta love it when even the security's giving you a hard time, but what are you gonna do? But sorry you lost your voice, man. Hopefully you've recovered because I know what that's like. Going to a game, I can't help but just scream at the top of my lungs
Right.
for like the majority of the time. And yeah, so and thanks for the reactions right after the game, dude. Appreciate it.
So good. And then Jared had a few more things to share after composing himself, getting back home. It was a few hours later. Take it away, Jared. Let's hear some more.
Hey, Wayne, it's Jared. So one more time. Sorry, I'm calling over a couple of voicemails. Realized that I posted my excitement on the page and actually didn't explain kind of how me getting club seats to the game came about. But yeah, it was a really kind of funny turn of events of me texting a buddy of mine and because we'd already had plans for me to go over to his place to watch the game and grill up some brats and whatnot. And I was like, hey, so what's going on? And then on Friday, he was just like, well, how about this? Do you want to go ahead and see the game in person? And I was like, what? And anyways, sorry, I'm going to give you the play-by-play. It was just, I'm really excited and I'm still kind of like feeling like pretty pumped about actually being able to go to the game again, even though the Packers lost. But it was pretty cool. You know, was just like, it was just a really interesting connection where a mutual friend of ours is like really good friends with Dave Logan, who played for the NFL from like the mid 70s to the mid 80s. He was a wide receiver for the Browns and then I think 1 year for the Broncos. And he's currently like the announcer for the Broncos like radio station and stuff, like doing the play-by-play and stuff. So anyways, it was really kind of crazy, kind of like turn of events, but yeah, it was a pretty neat how it all kind of went down. So the other thing too that I wanted to like shout out, and I think in my previous call I had mentioned how I was like super close to Russell Wilson and meeting him. Something just like I guess a shout out more to Russell Wilson is it was pretty cool because at a certain point it was kind of pretty much time for everyone to go and security was kind of clearing the way, and there was a mom with her two kids, young kids who were excited to meet him, and the mom was kind of trying to like be like, hey, I'm really sorry guys, like, we got to get going, and they were like very kind of like upset and kind of like bummed out about not being able to meet Russell Wilson. And then Russell Wilson was like, no, come back, you guys, come back over here. And so he like made it a point to like tell security to like chill out and at least let that mom with her two kids to come back over, and he signed some stuff and took some pictures with them. So I don't know, just a really cool moment. It's kind of, it's always nice to see when you I feel like a lot of times we, you hear the whole thing of like, oh, never meet your heroes. Cause unfortunately, certain celebrities or maybe even sports stars can maybe be a little bit full of themselves, but it was kind of cool to see Russell Wilson to actually like take note of a mom and kids like wanting to be excited to meet him, and he, took the extra, 30 seconds or so to be like, no, it's fine, like, let them take a picture and stuff and move on. So anyways, just want to give that a shout out.
So good to hear from you, Jared. Google cut you off at a critical time, but we got the gist of it. Thanks for calling back again. And yes, please post some of those pictures in the Facebook community group at packerscommunity.com, because it'll be great to see some of those that you did get. And really cool how everything came together, how you got the ticket to the game, and it all tied in with a former Browns, maybe Broncos player who's now currently announcing for the Broncos on the radio. That was a fun twist to the story. And that's cool to hear that, meeting kind of a football hero like Russell Wilson, that he is a nice guy and wanted to make sure that even the mom and with the kid were able to get some time with him before they were all ushered away. That was so good. Thank you, Jared.
I love it when players do that. It's cool to you hear so many negative stories about players and how they are off the field. To see something good like that is always great to see.
Absolutely.
Disgusting. Once again, I'm going to borrow my phrase from a couple of seasons ago. What a fecal festival that it was. I mean, I feel like this is Groundhog Day. We've been watching the same game, I want to say 3 times in a row now, where they're doing absolutely nothing in the first half. Then all of a sudden, somebody magically figures it out in the second half. I mean, in the first half alone, the Packers have been outscored 63-6. But then they come back in the second half and I guess magically figure it out. And now they have the NFL's league-leading average score in the second half with 17 points. I can't wrap my mind around it and how I'm just like flabbergasted. I just don't understand what's going through LaFleur's mind and his play calling. And he even said it in his own press conference. He said it's far too fragmented and the execution isn't there. That's exactly what I've been saying this past few weeks, only I used the word disjointed. And I thought about what I'd said last week about not caring about the average age of the player and the team being the youngest across the league in the NFL. But then I thought about it, and they really don't have a whole lot of veteran leadership. Like you take Kansas City, for example, and they have, Patrick Mahomes. He's been to the Super Bowl multiple times. You got Travis Kelce, who's been there 12 years now. So this season, it's just going to be one of those ones that's all about evaluation. I know I said to temper our expectations for this season, and I wasn't expecting to have to temper them this far because I think these 3 of the 4 losses we had were all very winnable games, and they just didn't, like Matt said, they didn't execute. Now, the good news for next season is they're going to free up over $60 million in dead cap space of players who aren't even on the team anymore. Yeah, there are currently 21 players on the list that I looked at that comprises, the totals up to $61 million in dead cap space. So we're going to get a lot of that back. So hopefully when free agency hits next year, they'll be able to pick up some of that veteran leadership, I hope. I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but Love actually looked pretty good in regular passes, but his deep ball is not there. He is 6 for 27 for passes that are beyond 20 yards with no touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And to me, it looks like whenever he throws it, it's either over the receiver's head or they have to come back to get it. He can hardly, I don't think maybe one time seen him hit a player in stride. But we have 11 games left. There's going to be a lot of learning and a lot of bumps in the road. And, when you're challenged like these guys are, that's when you make your biggest strides. And so I have a lot of optimism moving forward. And I've come to the point where I'm accepted the fact that there's not going to be a get-right game for us, I don't think. We are the get-right game for other teams, though. And if, the continued barf play that we've seen so far continues, if the season were to end right now, we'd be the 7th pick in the draft. So that's something we can, if you find a little silver lining. Also, I heard another local reporter or media type say that if they continue on the road that they're on, there's a very high likelihood that the Packers will be featured on Hard Knocks, which, that might be kind of cool to see the inner workings of how the Packers operate, behind what are normally closed doors and tight lips. But anyway, we just got to keep on keeping on. Next up, we have Minnesota. I guess in some ways, fortunately, since we don't have Jair Alexander, don't have to worry about containing Justin Jefferson since he's on the IR. I still don't expect a whole lot anymore after seeing what we're seeing. I am predicting a 23-17 loss to the Minnesota Vikings. I can't believe I just said that, but sometimes the truth hurts. And I'll leave you with one last thing. Bart Starr said, this is a quote, "It takes no courage to support a winning team. It takes true courage to support the team when they're losing. Win, lose, or draw, green and gold till dead and cold. Loyal to the soil." Sorry to steal that from you, Megan. But, I'm disappointed, sure. But I always support and rock the G. Always hold my head up high. Wear my hats, wear my T-shirts and sweatshirts, whatever it is, always rocking the green and gold. Looking forward to November 19th. Jill and I will be going up to the game against the Chargers, and support our team no matter what happens. So if you happen to be going to that game, let me know so we can meet up sometime somewhere and have a lot of fun. That's the best part about going to the games is the fellowship and meeting other fans and meeting other people and just having a good time. Go, 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 Pack, go!
Hey, Dan, thanks so much for the call. Really appreciate it, as always. Always great to hear from you. Have fun at the Chargers game, man. I'm still hoping to get up to one this year. My wife and I waiting for the busyness of this year to calm down a little bit before we start putting something else on the calendar. I'm looking forward to getting my weekends back here after next weekend. So I really love the Bart Starr quote that you said. That's
Yes.
really cool. And I'm going to reiterate, I have been very negative about this game, rightly so. But I will never, give up on the Packers. I don't care if they're 0-17. Something like that. I'm still going to be supporting them and talking about them and watching every game, every quarter of every game, every minute of every quarter, at least when they broadcast it, because they didn't start broadcasting the Packers game until one of the other games was over this week, which is frustrating. But yeah, $60 million in dead cap space. I had no idea. That is nuts.
That should be pretty helpful indeed.
I would hope so. Maybe get some veterans in there that can kind of spice things up a little bit, And then if we're a 7th round draft pick, maybe that's right now. I know that's not, the season's far from over, but maybe we can get something down there as well. And I'm already looking towards next year. I hate to be the negative Nancy here, but I'm already looking at rebuilding and what are we going to do for next year at this point? And
Scott,
I will never say purposely lose and try to get that first round draft pick.
The Packers don't do that.
No. I hate it when teams do that or even talk about doing that. It drives me crazy. But yeah, thanks for the call, Dan.
You're already looking forward towards next year?
Dude, we lost to the worst team in the league.
It happens.
Yeah.
It shouldn't happen. There's a lot of football left. There's a lot of things that are going to happen.
Yeah, and a tougher season or a tougher schedule after this. It's all uphill from here, man.
Well, maybe the Chiefs game, but hey,
yeah,
anything's possible. Anything's possible. But Dan, we really appreciated the message that you sent in. And made another great point when he said it seems like we've been watching the same game for 3 or 4 weeks in a row now. And yeah, I do feel that way. That is so weird. Just the uniforms change.
Yeah. Totally frustrating.
So weird.
Wayne Scott, Art from Texas. What is he doing throwing a deep ball on 3rd down into double coverage? Fundamentals. Patience. Green and gold till I'm dead and cold. Go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go indeed, Art. I know. I can hear the exasperation in your voice. Why is he throwing that down into double coverage? And I guess in either last night's or today's press conference, Coach LaFleur said that he actually called that play. Of course, I doubt that he knew that it was going to be double coverage, but run the ball. Please run the ball. But no matter what, green and gold till dead and cold. Go Pack, go indeed, Art. Thank you again for your call. And who knows what's going to happen after this game against the Vikings. I think we're all going to be a lot happier. And I knew Scott was going to chuckle right there. I knew it.
All right. Well, we did not get a voicemail from Megan, but we did get an email. So I got one I'm going to read here for you. She starts out and says, "Oh gosh, where do I begin? Wayne and Scott, I am counting on you to read this in your best Megan voice as I'm writing from work and don't know that I'll have a chance to call before the end of my 12-hour shift." I don't know how to read it in a Megan voice.
Go for
this
it.
Is Megan, by the way. This is Megan, by the way. I try to start with some positives, so I'm going to highlight Jaden Reed's catch off the hands of Dobbs in the 4th, which was pretty awesome to see. Also, I have to give some mad props to A.J. Dillon. He played a great game. I wish it wasn't becoming such a pattern to turn on for the second half only. It's like we have to get in this deep hole in state of desperation to really make strong efforts to make plays, and it's just not going to cut it in the long run. I miss the days where we'd start strong and move the ball from the start of the game. I see a lot of grit and effort in the second halves, but where is that during the first 2 quarters? I get that we still have been plagued with injuries and they continue to pile up, but still, that shouldn't be an excuse. I really do believe in Jordan Love and his talent, but I start to hold my breath with a lot of his deep balls, worried that they will be tossed to the other team, and, like in Denver, that definitely contributed to the heartbreaking loss. I do believe that we should play strong enough and with fewer penalties. Fewer penalties was in all caps throughout the game to not be in a do or die position in the final minutes of the game. but the turnovers have to become less, and we need to take the ball away more. I know Jordan is frustrated, as are the rest of the guys. Is it a question of coaching? Matt seems frustrated, but he always says it starts with him. I get that we have a young team who needs to learn how to play in the NFL, but we could come up with excuses forever. That won't win us games.
Right.
I hope the penalties can start to lessen as well, because I feel like each game we let them pile up, and those are yards we just give away. I make excuses for the young guys, but there shouldn't be excuses like that. The holding penalty on Elchin really hurt us late in the game. I remember they used to do mental days, and maybe they need to do more of those or work in some focus on foundational football. I've said it before, but they don't need to be cute. The last call of the game didn't have to go that way. They had time to make a few chunk plays and secure it with a field goal or a less risky toss to the end zone. I get that I'm not the coach, and I know far less than our coaching staff does, but something has to change. I sure hope we can turn it around, and I hope that starts on Sunday versus Minnesota. I will be at the game with my mom, cheering louder than ever. Let's go.
Oh,
we have
Scott,
a whole half of the season.
I'm sorry. The let's go. It's got to be
go!
more like, Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
That's my best Megan. We have a whole half of the season left to work hard and play like we are the Green Bay Packers. Green and gold till I'm dead and cold, no matter what. Also, I shipped a loaf of green and gold sourdough to AJ Dillon and his wife this morning. So that is the highlight of my week and entire bread life. Woo. Woo.
Woo!
Thank you very much, Megan.
Yes.
I love that I wonder how that works. Like, if you send them food, are they going to consume it? You know what I mean? Like, are they worried people, like weirdos, are going to send them stuff? I don't know. Hopefully they enjoy it.
There's always that risk, but it's from Megan, so it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And it's sourdough. That is so good.
We can vouch for her, man.
Absolutely. AJ, give us a call. +1 920 3PAC go. And then, anyway, so good to hear from you, Megan. I hope you made it through the 12-hour shift all right. Our weekly poll question, which we post in our Facebook group, PackersCommunity.com, as well as on X at Packers Fan Pod. For this kind of Packers team, how much of a difference will it make being back at Lambeau Field for a 12 noon football game hosting the Vikings? Yes, I think it's going to make a huge difference, or it might make a little bit of a difference, or unfortunately, not going to make any difference. Scott?
It's not going to make a difference, man.
Wow.
I'm pulling out the fork. The fork is it's time to punch it in, man. They're done.
Do you eat bratwurst with a fork?
No.
Okay, then. They keep that fork. You
I
don't need a
tenderize
fork.
them with a fork.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. I think it's going to make a little bit of a difference. I wish that I could be here with my now deceased rose-colored glasses and say that it's going to make a huge difference. But I do think it's going to make a little bit of a difference. Just get this streak of games that are at 12 noon Central, quite a few of them at Lambeau Field. I think it's got to help, right?
Well, I hope you're right.
The people that voted are with you, Scott. 72% of you, when you combine Twitter and Facebook, said it's not going to make any dang difference. 17% are with me that it might make a little bit of a difference. Thankful for the 7% who said it's going to make a huge difference.
We had some comments on the poll as well in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook group. First off, Dictus in the Netherlands says Raiders and Broncos. Man, I thought we'd win those, at least win one. There's a ton of blame to go around. Not that that fixes anything, but I feel the coaching staff just don't get them ready enough. Whether it's the defense or offense or special teams, the potential is there. But I'm aware this is a weird year when it comes to expectations. And I know winning now is less important than building to win next year and onwards. At least it is in this in-between year. But man, I want to see some growth, some fight. This was bad. Also, Tyler Seaver says, we all knew this would be a rebuild, but with the talent they have, there looks to be no heart, and I'm questioning whether Jordan Love is the guy for Green Bay. Garrett Stritzel also commented and said, I'm so disgusted right now. I feel your pain, Garrett. I really do. Josh Steinman says, it looks like Love doesn't have the arm strength or the decision-making to be a high-level starter. Give him until the end of the season, and if things keep going this way, then we will be in position to draft, hopefully, a proper successor anyway.
Oh, my. And super fan Aaron Peterson, in a similar frame of mind as Tyler Seaver, saying, If Love doesn't start connecting on the deep balls soon, I'm going to be in the corner that says he's not the guy. He's been awful at anything over 10 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And on X, that Scott sometimes still calls Twitter, Larina commented, being back at Lambeau Field for a noon game will energize the Packers. The Vikings better bring their A game, if they have one, because the cheeseheads are ready to dominate. Hashtag Go Pack Go. And that's what I like to hear. The comments and conversations are still ongoing all around our coaching staff and their methods and Jordan Love. Things are heating up in there, and they're ongoing in the group. So look into that, see what the other community members are saying and sharing in there, and then leave your comments as well. In addition, there's some other great conversations in the Facebook group unrelated to the poll question. In fact, I had to share that I stumbled across an old A&W fast food restaurant the other day, and they had cheese curds. I had to try them. I just had to. I'm like, cheese curds? Not too bad. The ones I had at the 1919 at Lambeau Field are still my favorites, but there's also, surprisingly, Scott, a lot of comments all surrounding cheese curds in that post.
Oh, yeah. We talked about Culver's ones and how they're not, even though they're from Wisconsin, they don't do cheese curds right. They're like breaded weird instead of, yeah. So we had a fun conversation there. Also, Rick Snowdy shared a post about a very strange Packers-Vikings game, flashback to Minnesota 1995. Both starting quarterback Brett Favre and backup quarterback Ty Detmer got injured in the game. The Packers and Vikings were tied 24-24 with less than a minute to go, and the Packers with the ball on the Minnesota 38-yard line. On 3rd and 1, Holmgren called for a quarterback sneak. However, quarterback TJ Rubley audibled and called a rollout. He passed the ball, and it was quickly intercepted, giving Minnesota the ball and eventually the win. TJ Rubley was released in Minnesota after the game and wasn't even provided transportation home. Wow.
I understand you need to do what the coach tells you, but to leave him there in Minnesota, not even bringing him back to Green Bay, that's a little harsh.
That's kind of hilarious, actually. I've never heard that story before. Amazing.
I know, that's why I had to share that. Thank you, Rick Snowdy, for that. And, crazy things happen when we play the Vikings. There's all sorts of good stuff happening in the Facebook group. Just join that at packerscommunity.com and be sure to call us, email us, and all that good stuff right after the Vikings game this coming Sunday. So let's take a look at it, Scott. These numbers, your 2-4 Green Bay Packers are finally going to be back to the beautiful Lambeau Field and hosting the probably 2-5 Vikings on Sunday, October 29th, 12 noon Central. Green Bay Packers obviously lead this series like many others. 65 wins to 57 losses and 3 ties, and 2 of those 125 games were playoff games. We started to first play against the expansion Vikings on October 22nd, 1961. Started it all off with a 33-7 victory. In fact, under Coach Lombardi, we beat the Vikings 9 times in the first 10 matchups. Can I get a Go Pack Go?
Go Pack Go indeed.
And there's been numerous memorable games between us and the Purple Freaks. And in addition to the Favre versus Rodgers games, my all-time favorite matchup has to be the classic Monday night game, November 6, 2000, in the rain, in overtime. Brett Favre's pass to Antonio Freeman was deflected by Chris Dishman, but the ball still landed in Antonio's hands. He was on the ground, but he wasn't touched, so he got up, and Freeman ran for the winning touchdown, wrapping up with Al Michaels' famous exclamation of, "He did what?" Rewatched that replay a few times this week, and it still gets me choked up to this day. It really does. It's so good.
And speaking of getting choked up, the Vikings, anytime I think of the Minnesota Vikings, when I'm not thinking about them negatively, they remind me of my good friend Kurt Erickson, who was a diehard Vikings fan. Kurt was like an uncle to me. Actually, he and his wife let me live with them my senior year of high school and a little bit beyond there as I finished up. He sadly passed away several years ago at a very young age. And as much as I can't stand the purple one, seeing those helmets will always remind me of Uncle Kurt. I used to try to buy him every Warren Moon football card I could get my hands on back in the day because he was a fan of that quarterback. So, just kind of thinking about Kurt this week and I'm still not going to wish the Vikings the best, but may he rest in peace.
Indeed. And since we last played a game in Green Bay, autumn has arrived, as you know, living there in the Midwest. Sunday afternoon's weather at Lambeau Field is forecast to be chilly. There's a 40% chance of rain around kickoff, and it's going to be 47 degrees Fahrenheit, about 8 degrees Celsius. Now, that sounds like football weather. And if it really does rain, that hopefully will be a little more of an advantage for our Green Bay Packers.
Hopefully, because, those Vikings are used to playing in a dome, so could be a little edge for us. Well, I've got some keys to a Packers victory over Minnesota Vikings, Wayne, and I'm going to forewarn you. A lot of this is going to sound very, very familiar, and there's going to be some not so nice things I'm going to say, but I'm still going to give us some keys here.
All right.
Strategy number 1, super simple, man. Run. Enough said. I feel like I say it every week. Run the dang ball. Jordan Love clearly isn't the answer for our long passing game, and they need to focus their passing game on short, quick passes, but everything else just needs to be run. Run the ball. I don't even care if it's not Aaron Jones and Dylan, and you need to give them a break. Give these other guys a shot. What do you got to lose at this point? Run the ball. That's all I'm going to ask. It's the number 1 strategy. Number 2 is going to be get in the must-win mindset. It's officially playoff season for the Packers as far as I'm concerned. Some of us think that the season is already over, and I might be one of them. But there are those like Wayne who are trying to keep the dream alive. And if there's going to be any chance, then the only hope is to treat this game as a must-win. They simply can't lose, or things are going to be dire, and we're going to be at the bottom of the barrel with the Bears. And I don't want them playing for a number 1 draft pick. That is not what the Packers do, and I don't like it. And especially with this game being, a rivalry, if they win tonight, they're actually ahead of us. So as of right now, they are ahead of us. And we will need to win this game to secure a second place spot in the division. So, yeah, it's an absolute must win. And number 3, admit you're not the team you thought you were. Going into the first game of the season, we expected the Packers to beat the Bears, just not as much as they did. It's been almost all downhill since then, and it's time to eat some humble pie. Admit you're in a rebuilding phase and look at each game like you're the underdog. The only way to come out victorious at this point is to fight like you're David versus Goliath with every team from this point on. We don't have any more bye weeks, and the schedule is only going to get tougher from here. There's simply no evidence for overconfidence, and at this point, the team needs a serious attitude adjustment if they're going to get some W's under their belt. And there you go.
Love it. So you're saying there's a chance, especially if we run the ball.
If we run the ball, there's a chance. Yes. Moving on to our 2023 season wager of fun. Last week's predictions, I predicted the Packers win 28-21. Wayne predicted 24-20 in favor of the Packers. Differential does not matter because we both did not score any points because the final score was 19-17 in favor of the Broncos. And unfortunately, not a single listener picked the Broncos to win either. So I don't know has this happened before? Yeah, we had it a couple weeks ago. Nobody gets points this week. So,
but I don't think it's happened this many times in an early part of the season.
Yeah. So as of right now, the standings are me in the lead over Wayne with a score of 2-1. And our lone wolf in the listener column is David Newman with 3 wins on the season so far. So we got to move on to our predictions for this week. And I'm going to tell you, man, I'm predicting a loss. I'm going to say
against the Vikings at Lambeau Field.
Yep. Yes. I'm going to say a loss. Sorry, man. I hope I'm wrong, but I think with the stacked injuries and I don't see the Packers running the ball like they should be. They're going to continue to keep throwing the deep ball. They're going to keep relying on this quarterback that they put so much time and effort into, and they haven't listened to us thus far. So why are they going to start now? So yeah, I'm going to say Minnesota 17, Green Bay 16.
I am in stunned silence.
This is how Wayne chastised me. He has these like long gaps of silence in between while he just silently judges me.
I just can't believe it. I think, whether or not it rains, there's bound to be enough quote unquote weather that we would be insane to continue trying to throw the deep ball in this particular game. Mm-hmm. We have almost no choice, not just because it's your number 1 key to victory, but I do think we just have to run the ball more for all sorts of reasons. We are going to get a victory by the slimmest of margins. Same numbers as you had, just reversed. Green Bay 17, Minnesota 16.
Interesting. We have some listener picks on the for the Packers Fan Podcast for Week 8 of the PFP Wager of Fun. Tyler Seaver says Minnesota 21-19. See, I'm not the only one, man. I'm not the only one. He said, this is a tough year to sit through, but I will always love my Green Bay Packers no matter what. We've had the luxury of having winning seasons and MVP caliber quarterbacks for decades. I can accept the growing pains of a young team, but I have a hard time accepting some of these coaching decisions on the offense and defensive side of the football. Brett Connor also chimed in with a Minnesota win of 20-14. So again, dude, I'm not alone.
It sounds like I might be the one that's alone, because even Dan Dyler is calling for a Minnesota victory. You heard him earlier, 23-17. We'll see. The NFC North kind of up in the air at this point because the Detroit Lions lost big. They're 5-2 now. The Packers are 2-4 for now. The Vikings, I don't think they're going to beat the Niners tonight. They're kicking off in about 5 minutes. So they're probably going to be 2-5. And the Bears are 2-5. So, yeah.
And there you have it. Some other interesting things that happened in the NFL this week. This is actually related to the Packers. Kareem Jackson from the Broncos was officially suspended for 4 games for his repeated violations of unnecessary roughness. If you remember the play that happened in this game where Musgrave got just knocked out, just absolutely no need for that. And thank goodness he's okay, because that hit was completely brutal. But I'm glad that guy's finally getting some. He's been fined like tens of thousands of dollars just this season alone. Just completely uncalled for. And also, I had shared this with Wayne over text, but the Packers signed James Robinson from the Jaguars. That is big news for me because James Robinson is actually a Rockford native.
Nice.
He went to school here in Rockford. So it was cool that he was getting into the NFL and playing for Jacksonville, but now he's in Green Bay. I mean, he's just on the practice squad, so he's not really getting any starts, but hey, who knows what's going to happen? And we're officially a running team now, so they're going to need to get those guys up and going there.
So instead of a 2 tight end set, we may go out there with a 4 running back set. Just
let's do it.
Go crazy. That is good news. And I don't know if it's just because we want insurance, or are we still kind of nervous about Aaron Jones's health? We'll see, but I'm glad to have him. James Robinson, welcome to Lambeau Field. Mm-hmm. And Sunday was just not just the Packers game, but so many upsets with the Lions getting demolished, the Bears beating the Raiders, the Patriots beating the Buffalo Bills. Just everything was just bonkers, absolute bonkers.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of the Patriots, Bill Belichick won his 300th game as head coach in the NFL. I don't know if you saw the post-game interview, but he was clearly super excited about it.
I did not see it, but I'm going to have to because I can't recall the last time I've seen Bill Belichick excited in a press conference.
I was being completely sarcastic. He was not. But it's worth going to look it up just to see him being Belichick with whatever. We're focused on the game. I can worry about that later.
We're on to Miami.
It's like almost verbatim what he said. Okay. Go cut some sleeves off with some sweatshirts, man. Cheer up.
You got it.
All right. I want to remind everybody else about my other podcast, The Gaming Outsider. We release a new episode every Wednesday. And this week, we talked about video game conventions, since we just held our own video game convention. Talked about whether we like them and what we like about them. And also, we played the newest Mario game that just came out this past week, Super Mario Wonder. Spoiler alert, it is absolutely fantastic. I can't stop playing it. And also, Spider-Man 2 released this week, a very, very big release. It is definitely the busy season if you're a video gamer. So be sure to check out our podcast if you get a chance, wherever you listen to this show, or you can also head to our website, thegamingoutsider.com.
We love our MVPs, the listeners of the Packers Fan Podcast. And we're changing things up just a little bit here because we obviously do have Patreon and we love that stuff as well. But I do want to mention that I want recordings of your best Go Pack Goes. You can even record like 4 or 5 of them, and we'll pick and choose. Because what we want to do, Dan Dyler, he's had his run at the end of the podcast with his outros and his great go pack goes at the very end. But he reached out to me and said, I want it to be more of a community thing and have everybody get involved. And he had a great idea. I love this. So if we get your Go Pack Goes recordings, or even if you have a great one in your other voicemail and don't mind that we strip the Go Pack Go from it, we want to record a new outro that features all sorts of members of the Packers Fan Podcast listening community. And so send those in. You could call +1 920 3PACK-GO, or to make it even better, record it on your phone or your computer, attach it to an email, and send it to feedback@PackersFanPodcast.com.
Also, thanks for giving back to your Packers Fan Podcast via Patreon. We really do appreciate it. Details for becoming a patron and some of the fun swag perks that you can get and other ways to give back to the show, like virtual bratwursts, etc., are at PackersFanPodcast.com/giveback. Thank you, Jay Walters and Go Pack Go, for supporting the show at the Rogers 12 level. And the Jordan Love era is finally underway in Green Bay and now in our Patreon as well. So Go Pack Go, and thank you to Dan Dyler for your Jordan Love-inspired support of the Packers Fan Podcast.
Go Pack Goes, and thank yous to these wonderful Brett Favre level supporters, Colm Noland in Ireland and Miguel Ramirez from the Opposites Attract podcast. Also, Curly Lambeau, Go Pack Goes, and thank yous to Hank Davis from the TPE Network and Joe Christensen as well. If you're able and feel led to give back to the show, check out the details, like Scott said, PackersFanPodcast.com/giveback. The Unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, not yet affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers. And as we've mentioned in the past, sharing is caring. So please tell your friends about the Packers Fan Podcast.
Also, if you'd like to follow us on a lettered social media outlet, you can do so at TWITTER.com. You can follow us at Packers Fan Pod. You can follow me personally at GoCastScott, or you can also follow Wayne at Wayne Henderson. And here's community member Dan Dyler to take us out until Minnesota.
All right, this is Dan, a.k.a. Pack Sparrow, and Brett.
Coming in from Tottenham, all the way from London, England. And this is the Go Pack Go.
Go, 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 go.
Go Pack Go!